Hi, my name is Ashley Perez, and I'm here to talk to you about the juvenile justice policies and their use of punitive measures or tough on crime rather than reformative or rehabilitative services. Currently in the US, there's not enough resources or efforts being made towards the rehabilitation of young offenders. The states each have their own policies and they lack in preventing the youth from offending or reoffending. Many of these underage offenders are tried as adults, meaning if they're above the age of 16, they can be tried in adult court with a sentence of that an adult would have. Adults are conscious of their actions and their repercussions. A child may not be because they do not have as much experience. A child does not have that same knowledge. The state should focus on helping these young offenders in a way that they've never been helped at home. So currently there are 5 out of the 50 states that are convicting 16 and up as an adult. And then the other 45 states are convicting youth offenders at the age of 17 and up as an adult. That being said, a child can commit a serious crime at the age of 16 or at the age of 17 while they're still in high school. At 16, you're not even almost done with high school. Some of the states, their legal driving age is 16. So maybe they just got their driver's license, or if they don't have the resources or the money for it, they still haven't gotten their license. So they're not even able to legally drive yet. These same children are full dependents of their families or of the foster home or system, wherever that they're living. They don't, most of the time, are not even legally allowed to work yet they're getting sentenced to an adult prison for committing a crime, and the state or the place that they're residing in deems it as an adult offense while a child is committing this crime. So the worst part about it is that there are children that are being sentenced to these jails for committing their crimes, whether it's a petty crime or a violent crime, and they're being put in an environment where there are multiple adults all over it that are committing crimes that are able to influence these children, because children are highly impressionable. They're able to influence these children into continuing the lifestyle that they've been in. They're also seeing it and they're thinking, oh, I can do that as well, because they're a child. They don't know. So they came into the prison as a child. They're leaving it as an adult if they do end up leaving. So they're in a situation with these offenders that could possibly be a child predator. One of them could have been convicted for sexually assaulting a child. So let's get to the facts, the statistics of it. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, there was a need for juvenile justice programs to change. Everyone was frustrated with the crime rates. Parents were especially frustrated with their kids misbehaving and committing these petty crimes. They didn't want to deal with it. So the politicians, they introduced a range of steps to introduce tough on crime, which are punitive measures. There was a culminating dramatic rise of young offenders being charged as adults at this point, as well as they had longer sentences and they were put in worse guarded institutions. Even if they were charged as a child, they were put in a worse situation than what was before, a less desirable situation. So where we're getting these statistics are from the UCR, which is the Uniform Crime Report, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, Office for Juvenile Justice and Prevention of Delinquency, the OJJDP, The U.S. Department of Justice's National Crime Victimization Program, which records convictions of all juveniles, measures thousands of homes around the country to collect evidence on juvenile victimization not reported to the authorities. 1.6 million youth convictions, which is 75,890, were violent offenses in 2010. So of the 1.6 million, 75,890 were violent crimes. The rest were like petty crimes, just other things that were not like a rape or murder or something that is hurting another person. 8% of the citizens detained in the United States in 2016 were under the age of 18, so according to the FBI. The rate of minors convicted for property offenses in 2016 fell by a small amount from the 2015 statistics. So in 2015, it was 147,350, and then in 2016, it was 149,774. So it was only like a little bit over 2,000 of a difference. So the total of juveniles convicted for homicide in 2016 increased greater than 30%, from 521 to 682. Adolescent violent crime arrests rose 15%, from 35,886 to 41,335 in only 1 year. So with that, obviously, evidence showed children arriving home in poorer conditions than they were before they left. What we want to prevent is that we want children to come back in better conditions, because if not, then they're just going to go back and reoffend. They're going to be in worse anger problems, worse wants and needs for wanting to commit crimes, because they don't care about anything at this point. So some community-based programs would help in that. You want to get the family and the friends involved and people that they care about, because that's how they're going to pay attention. They're looking for that attention. They need it. So one of them was introduced by Michigan State University. It's called the ADP Adolescent Diversion Project. So ADP's goal is to deter potential criminal behavior by improving the connection of young people to families and other prosocial persons like their friends, while also enhancing adolescent exposure to cultural services and protecting young people from negatively ostracizing social environments. The program had between the age ranges of 13 to 15-year-olds, and it had both of the genders, multiple different ethnicities. Like, it was very diverse. And then it was in multiple different areas of Michigan State, like in the state of Michigan. So another program targeting at-risk youths emphasizes the need for preventive measures in all states rather than just punitive measures after the crime is done. This is called the cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. So everything it has to do with their psychological, what the child is going through psychologically. This is mostly for anger-related problems in children and adolescents. The target population were from 7 to 17, so it was a little bit broader than the Michigan State one. This had white, Black, and Hispanics in the experiment or the study. The location and settings were a little bit more broad than the other programs. It was in the correctional facilities, community settings, inpatient and outpatient, and in the schools. So CBT is issue-focused and psychological technique intended to aid participants and acknowledge and alter their unhealthy attitudes, emotions, and behaviors that led to maladaptive conduct. So they're basically saying that, let's see what's going on in their, let's control their anger to prevent all of this misconduct that they're doing. So by helping children who are reported by their schools, communities, and families as disruptive, aggressive children, and focusing on the preventive aspect, it will subconsciously help the child realize that they have someone who cares about them and their well-being. So it all comes down to attention. Like, the child needs the attention. They're looking for it. They got the attention by misbehaving every single time, by you saying, no, like, you can't do that. Like, you were looking at them and talking to them, rather than if you were just ignoring them, or if you were just on your phone and they were acting out, and the only time that you gave them attention is when they acted out. So that's where it comes. It's all psychological. Incarcerating the youth immediately will in turn put them in an atmosphere where other children will reinforce that maladaptive behavior and aggression, because they too are doing it and most likely encouraging it. So if you're putting them back into the community that they just came from, where they were doing these, if you're not putting things out into the community to change it, then it's still going to be the same thing, because their friends are saying, yeah, you should do it. Yeah, go have a drink. Oh, I bet you won't do it. They're encouraging them. So as previously mentioned, there's a massive discrepancy in the efforts being made in each individual state, city, and county. So these programs are, like I said, like Michigan, or they do it in like small areas. But if these programs were introduced to all of the United States, and these programs were actually being implemented, it would have a big benefit. Like, we would see crime rates drop, because in those areas the crime rates drop. One specific area that is known for their crime rates, like, you see it in movies, you hear about it in the news, like, this isn't something that you're taught. This is something you hear all the time. It's common knowledge, which that's not great. In Chicago, Illinois, for instance, they're known for that. So they have this program in Chicago called Cure Violence. It's a crime reduction initiative that utilizes public safety strategy, incorporating professional neighborhood crime disruptors, community personnel, public awareness programs, and civic engagement to minimize murders and gun violence. The initiative views youths as moral agents having decisions, and the approach is to encourage their awareness as a real issue-solving technique with a wider variety of solutions to scenarios that frequently end in gunshots and death. So by utilizing these programs such as CBT, ADP, and Cure Violence, rather than high utilization of punitive measures and just putting them in an adult prison, and putting a highly influenced, uneducated child in an enclosed area with a violent and disruptive adult, we will slowly begin to see a change in the juvenile justice system. So let's get back into the money. Adolescent rehabilitation is indeed an expensive endeavor, at an estimate of $241 per day. Okay, it costs only $68 per day as an adult in prison in the United States. So you see where the issue lies. It's obvious. It's a big difference in numbers. $241 versus $68. Of course, the easy option is, and the better money option, is to put them in an adult jail. Even if it costs a little more to put all those measures into place for our children, in the long run, it will always give a positive light to the community that may not have had those opportunities before. So by introducing these reformative resources, these misbehaving or out of order children can grow up in the American workforce rather than stealing from it.